So you're thinking about putting up a shed. Nice one. Before you go racing down to Wix to decide what colour you want to paint it, you are going to need to sort out one very important thing first. Your shed base. So today I'm breaking down 5 different shed base options, from the downright lazy right up to the Rolls Royce of shed bases. Let's get stuck in. First up, we have the laziest option of all of them. You basically plonk your shed onto some old patio slabs that you have lying around, or even worse, just directly on the ground. Trust me, this is the worst of all of the options. And if you are thinking, don't worry, it will settle itself over time, you're right, it will settle itself right into the muddy quagmire that you've made below it. And before you know it, your floorboards will be rotting faster than a banana in a heat wave. I'm not going to spend too long on this one because I absolutely do not advise it. So this one gets a skill level of 0, a cost of 0. The pros are it is totally free to do, and the cons are your shed will be crooked, damp, and probably dead within about 2 years. Final verdict, if you're building a shed and want to destroy it as fast as possible, go for this. Option number 2 is the timber frame base. This is where you screw together some 2x4 timbers to make a rectangular frame, the total size of the shed that you're installing. You'll then attach a post to each corner using some screws, and if you want it to stay where you intended it to, you should probably postcrete each one of those timber posts into the ground. The skill level for this one is beginner. You are going to need to be comfortable using a handsaw and know which end of the drill to hold, and it will cost you about £100 in total. The main pros of this approach are it is cheap, adjustable, and very easy for the average DIYer to install. And the main con from experience is that you are building a little hotel for rats under your shed. That little gap that will inevitably be there because you're raising the frame off the ground is a perfect area for the rats to set up a little home. And a little bonus thing to mention here is because it is raised slightly higher off the ground, get ready for that little step up to glory every time you want to get your lawnmower out of your shed. Final verdict on this one is it's decent if you're on a budget, but just be prepared for those uninvited furry tenants. Option number 3 is the modern way to do it, which is a plastic grid system. To do this, you need to dig out the entire area where you want your shed to be. Probably about 3 to 4 inches is enough. You then, if you're laying just a simple shed, will level out the soil that sits there, just so you've got a level base that you're working from. I personally like to add a layer of sand just to make sure that you fill in all of those little bumps that are harder to fill in when you've just got soil. You'll lay down one layer of weed membrane to prevent any weeds coming through, and then you'll lay in your plastic grid system. The last step here is to backfill it with as much pea shingle as you can get your hands on, whilst still leaving a level finish. I'm currently sat on the shed that I installed about 2 years ago. I've got a video on this going into much more detail than I quickly went through it there, and I am a big fan of this approach. It's super fast, super easy, even if you've never really picked up a shovel before. The skill level is beginner friendly. Total cost is going to set you back around £150 to £200. The main pros of this are it's great for drainage, it's environmentally friendly, so if you ever decide to move your shed, you haven't got to move any permanent materials, and it's very easy to do. I will add here that if you're putting down a shed base for something a little bit bigger or robust, like for example a summer house, you probably will benefit from also adding about 2 to 3 inches of hardcore below your weed fabric, just to avoid any movement over the years that you'll be using it. Cons: genuinely, I struggled to think of one. And the final verdict on this one, if you're just installing a standard, normal shed like this is probably the best option. Hey, I'm down here. Hey. Option number 4 is a slab base. The DIY classic that sounds a lot easier than it actually is in reality. To lay a slab base for a shed or a patio, it's actually exactly the same process. You need to dig out the ground to about 150 mil in total. You're going to want to make sure that that ground is level, because that's always a good start. You then need to add in 100 mil of MOT type 1 hardcore and compact it down. I personally like to put a layer of Taram or weed fabric below the hardcore, but really that is just personal preference. You can then choose to either lay your slabs down with a wet mix of sand and cement, or you can go for a dry mix. Honestly, I think both of these are quite tricky to do for the average DIYer, but if you are someone that's totally new to this, a dry mix is probably going to be a lot easier because you can level it with a spirit level and then place your slabs on it. The skill level for this one is intermediate to advanced. Taking on a patio is no small feat, so mentally prepare yourself. And the cost is going to be around £300, but that's heavily dependent on the type of slabs and where you're buying your materials from. The pros of this one is it's absolutely solid as a rock and it will last you pretty much a lifetime. The cons of this one are it's about as easy to do as it is to explain TikTok to your gran. Also, there's a hell of a lot of digging, so just be ready. Final verdict on this one is unless you are a very patient person, are confident with a spirit level, or just have the stamina of a mountain goat, I'd probably avoid it. And finally, the Rolls Royce of all of the options, the concrete slab. This is exactly the same process as what you would have had to have done for the slab base, except this time you're going to want to dig out a little bit deeper. You're going to want to add in about 100 mil of MOT Type 1 hardcore, and once you've leveled that out and compacted it down, you're going to want to build a timber frame out of something like 2x4s. You can then embed a damp-proof membrane within that frame that you've just made, which will give you a waterproof barrier for you to pour the wet mix concrete. For the concrete, you're going to want a good 4 inches to make sure that it doesn't get any cracks in. And after that, you're going to want to rock a piece of wood over your frame to make sure that you've got a nice level surface. Now, the concrete itself can be ready mixed from a concrete delivery company, or if you're feeling brave, you can hand mix it in a wheelbarrow. It's up to you. The skill level of this one is you have to be a confident DIYer or just straight up a part-time builder. And honestly, if you have done this before, you've not given yourself enough credit. Well done. The cost of this one can be anywhere from £500 to £700, mainly dependent on how thick you go with that concrete and the area of the base that you're putting down. The main pros of this one is this shed base will probably outlive you, your shed, and possibly even your children. It's perfect if you are putting down one of those summer houses that you can get from companies like Dunster House, if you're building a heavy-duty workshop like what I did, or if you just want your shed to survive a nuclear event. And the main cons here is, it has to be said, this type of base is absolutely back-breaking work and a real challenge if you're not confident. Final verdict, only do this if you're building something serious or you just really, really love concrete. If you're still not sure which of these shed base options that I've gone through, well, I'm gonna give you my final recommendation. So if you've bought yourself just a normal shed, a shed, then I would recommend the plastic grid system. It's super easy and you'll be able to do it in one day. If you are instead buying yourself something a little bit more robust or expensive, like a summer house, or you're building a workshop, then you should consider either the patio slabs if you're confident, or my personal favourite, the concrete slab option. And if you're thinking about building a workshop that needs to last forever, well, you should probably watch my workshop series by clicking here next. Until next time, happy building.